everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm very excited because I'm going to be filming the first vlog that I get to film in August, which obviously may not mean much to you, but that does mean to me that we are starting to move in. We are starting to creep closer to the cozy times of year. So obviously I'm going to be jumpstarting that just a little bit today, and I wanted to do a very chill, very cozy, very relaxed kind of weekend sort of vlog. The weather, of course, is stunning. It has been raining so much recently, and I think it's gonna continue to rain today, although every time I say that, it gets sunny, just to spite me, I guess. But we have great weather. I have some great books that I'm hoping to read over the next couple of days. I have some fun, cozy things that I'm gonna be doing. So I'm very excited to just hang out with you guys over the course of this weekend. So let me first go through my TBR and then we will get on into it. So I have 3 books that I'm going to for sure be reading over the next couple of days. And then the last one I would just like to get a head start on because it is my August Patreon buddy read, which I'm so excited to jump into it because I've been hearing such great things about it. But let me show you the other things first. So the first book, and the one that I'm going to be mainly focusing on, is The Spirit Collection of Thornhall by J.N. Thomas. I did an updated physical TBR video a couple of videos ago, and it reminded me that I have this book that I'd really like to read. It says it's a gothic fantasy where Jane Eyre meets the haunting of Bly Manor, perfect for fans of Starling House. Like, does that not sound like the most immaculate vibe you could possibly want? As for what this book is about, no clue. Which is really unhelpful. But you know, the title alone, the comp titles really sold me on this book, so I'm gonna be reading this book in its entirety and I'm so excited about it. And then also, very much not the same vibe, but something I've just been meaning to read and haven't gotten around to, is Yona of the Dawn, volume 44, I think maybe? I just recently bought the ebook for this one and I'm very excited, but also very nervous to read it, so I thought we could do that this weekend as well. And then the last 2 books on this TBR I'm going to be listening to on audio because today, I'm so excited about this, I am partnering with Spotify. Now Spotify is already my music streaming platform of choice, but the fact that they now offer audiobooks honestly makes me like them even more. And because of that fact, it makes it so easy to swap back and forth between listening to music and listening to an audiobook. And as you may know, I love an audiobook. I feel like they are just the perfect way to get some reading in while you are running errands, doing chores, or my personal favorite, partaking in a cozy hobby. Let me tell you, the knitting and audiobook combo recently has been a game changer. And luckily they're very up to date with new releases, so I will be listening to the new John Green book, Everything is Tuberculosis. This is his new nonfiction book, which I think is going to be great because I loved the Anthropocene Reviewed, so I've been highly anticipating this one. And then the other one, which I'm not going to be able to finish in this video because it's so long, but we have Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. I've heard excellent things about this, so when I saw it was available on Spotify, I was like, okay, like obviously I'm gonna start it like right now. And you can actually listen to both of these books right now on Spotify because the best part is audiobooks are already included in your premium membership. So I'm very excited to jump into these 2 new releases. I'm also just so excited to be working with Spotify on this video. Thank you so much to them for sponsoring this video and supporting me and my channel, and to you guys who are watching this video as well for always supporting me and my channel. Thank you for allowing me to do this. So yeah, let's get into a stunning cozy day. I'm very excited about it, obviously. I'm thinking my plans for today are to kind of jump back and forth between The Spirit Collection of Thornhall and Everything is Tuberculosis. I don't think the audiobook for Everything is Tuberculosis is very long. I think it's about 6 hours, so I'm definitely planning on finishing that up today, and hopefully I can finish this one too. I feel like this is going to be like a low-key 24-hour kind of readathon, but like a little bit longer and not as stressful, honestly. But I do have a lot of reading that I'm planning to do over the next, you know, couple of days, so those are like my reading plans. I do also have some other plans, obviously, as I normally do. I'm gonna be doing some journaling. I'd love to do another spread in my little binder knockoff file of facts thing. I might do a puzzle later. I got a new puzzle recently. It's a little house moving castle puzzle and it is so cute and I would love to work on it. And then I also finally got the yarn for my next knitting project, which I'm so excited about. So the knitting and audiobook combo will be utilized today because I'm gonna be making a sweater. I'm gonna be making a step-by-step sweater by Handmade by Florence, and I have acquired my yarn. So I'm using the Drops Nepal in, I think it's olive. It's color 7238, but it's this nice green, and I'm gonna be pairing it with this Drops Kid Silk, which, why do they, hello? I'm pretty sure this is in the color green apple, but it doesn't say. But I saw somebody make a sweater with this yarn combination and I really liked it. I know these greens don't look like they go together, but I feel like this one's like a little bit like of a mixed color, so I feel like this is just gonna look nice. So that's what I'm gonna be working on today. I'm gonna cast it on, hopefully get a start on the, you know, yoke part of it, but this entire bag is just filled with yarn. So I've been itching to get into it. Honestly, it's so rude that the sun is coming out right now. I feel like every time I talk about the stunning weather, this happens. Whatever. I'm not gonna be mad about it. I think it's supposed to rain later. It's fine. So I'm thinking my plans for this morning are to jump into the Spirit collection of Thorn Hall. I'm so excited to get into some modern take on a gothic tale, an original chilling ghost story. Doesn't that sound so good? So I'm gonna get into that. I'm gonna do a little bit of journaling. It is currently only 8:15 in the morning. So much of the day left. I cannot wait to get into this cozy vlog, and I hope you guys enjoy. So I'm gonna get reading, and I will talk to you guys later this morning. So it is a little bit later. It is currently, actually it's a lot later. It's currently 12:21. But I feel like I have some good reading updates for the morning. I also, as you saw, did a little bit of journaling. I started working on my sweater. Here is what we have done so far. I hope this fits over my head. I'm sure it'll be fine. I think it's a little bit scrunched up on the needles, so I feel like this will be a fine neckline, so we'll see. I don't know, but I'm really liking this yarn combo so far. It's incredibly fuzzy. I don't know if you can see that very well, but like it is so fuzzy, which I'm not mad about. Also, Daisy loves this, what did I say this was? Kid silk, but I very much wanted a fuzzy sweater, so there we go. But I'm gonna continue to work on the neck ribbing. I think I'm gonna continue to do that after this update, just because I want to get to the point where I like start working on the yoke. I feel like I can definitely make it to that point today. So that'll be very fun. Can start doing increases and all that good stuff. But anyway, reading updates, let's talk about it, because I did indeed start the Spirit collection of Thorn Manor this morning, Thorn Hall, whatever the hell this is called. And I made it up to page 82, and I'm really liking it so far. I feel like the vibe is immaculate, honestly. It takes place in this giant manor, as you may assume. And the first chapter of this book takes place on Halloween night of 1902. And you're seeing the guy that owns the house at the time throwing this party. And I think he's basically trying to show off for some friends, kind of. And he's conducting this seance. And we'll just say that things don't exactly go super well. It's Daisy coming to say hi, hello. She has been such a little nuisance while I have been knitting this morning. But at least she's a cute nuisance. Oh, look at that little face. But after that chapter, we jump to present day, where we are following our main character, Elegy, who is like a descendant of the people that lived in the house at the time. And we're kind of following her and learning some things about the house. You do find out, of course, that there's a spirit collection that is currently haunting Thorn Hall. And she mentioned something about a curse, so I'm assuming that was kind of the outcome of the seance. And now all of these ghosts have just been living here ever since that thing happened in 1902, but the current generations, like through the years, have also been living in this house. And it's really interesting because even though it takes place in present day, the book also kind of has a little bit of a historical feel to it, because her great-great-great ancestor, whoever owned the house at the time of this seance, basically decreed that the house and the people in it would very much maintain the integrity of the year that this seance happened, which basically means our main character dresses in like clothing from that time period. The house doesn't really have any modern updates to it. It still very much feels like a house that could be from that time. And it's really interesting when outsiders come into the house, because when you're just with Elegy and you're following her, she's going around the house, it feels like it's taking place in 1902 kind of. Even the way she speaks sounds a little bit historical, but then when other people who are obviously, you know, up with the times are speaking very casually and wearing very modern clothing, I just think that's such an interesting kind of juxtaposition to add in there, and it only further emphasizes the oddness of the situation that Elegy is currently in. But so far in the book, we've kind of just been following her as she is dealing with the fact that her father is about to die. He has some sort of illness, and she doesn't really think he's gonna make it past another year, really. Which means that she is going to inherit the house, but that also means she is going to have to inherit the ghosts that are in the house, because the, you know, people that run the house kind of have to keep the ghosts in check. And for some reason, we're not really sure why, they don't seem to want to follow her directions and her orders. So you're kind of seeing a little bit of a glimpse into that. You're also just seeing a lot of the different ghosts that are in the house. A lot of them died in incredibly tragic ways, and the way they appear as ghosts very much mimics the way that they died. We've gotten some backstories on these people, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm actually traumatized on their behalf. But, you know, they're just out and about in this house being scary on the daily basis. And I think normal people can see them. Maybe, like sometimes they can see them, which interests me because there is also a little bit of a romance brewing in this book. They were having some water leaking issues, and this guy who normally comes in and does the maintenance for the house ends up sending his son instead. And of course his son is really cute, really successful. Our main character is basically acting like a fool in front of him, and has been for the last like 40 pages, I swear. And honestly, I get it, because she has been locked up in this house for like 26 years or so. She doesn't really leave very frequently. Her father doesn't like her to leave, and she doesn't interact with a lot of people outside of the ghost and her immediate family. So I'm letting that slide because I feel like it very much makes sense for her character. But like some of the things that she's done, I'm like, Respectfully, I'm looking away, I'm sorry. But obviously that means there's going to be an outsider kind of in her space a little bit in the house. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that shifts the dynamic of, you know, the ghosts and the people that live there and all that. So I'm liking that. I'm just liking the book overall so far. It definitely has a kind of creepy atmosphere to it because even though these ghosts aren't, you know, outwardly terrorizing our main character Elegy, you can definitely tell that she is scared of them, like some of them. And every now and then she will come into contact with some of the more scary residents of the house and she'll describe how they look and like the general feeling she gets when they're around, and it is very spooky. And even the less scary residents of the house definitely do still cause some mayhem and cause some issues like the water leaking. So we've just been following Elegy, getting to know more about her, know more about the house. We've met a couple of her friends. Obviously there's this relationship blooming, and I'm just liking it a lot so far. It has been a solid gothic, atmospheric kind of read. I'm also excited for a little bit of romance thrown in there as well. I think it's gonna be good. So, as I said, I'm like 80 or so pages into it. I'm going to obviously be reading a lot more of it today. That is my goal, but I'm liking it, so that's good. And then I've also been listening to my audiobook for Everything is Tuberculosis while I have been knitting, which again, audiobook knitting combo is top tier, but I'm about 60% of the way through the audiobook so far, and it has been fascinating and heartbreaking and eye-opening, honestly. I feel like there's so many things that I did not know about tuberculosis. Obviously, I was aware of it in like a it's really bad kind of capacity. And obviously I knew it was rampant in like the 1800s. I feel like everybody was dying of consumption in the 1800s, and that's because they were. But the way that John Green has been breaking it down and going through so many different aspects of it and approaching it from so many different angles has been so interesting so far. He has a lot of personal experiences with tuberculosis, and he kind of recounts some of his experiences with people that he has met and people that you can definitely tell he cared a lot for, and he's kind of talking about his personal experiences with watching somebody go through that, but he's also talking a lot about like the history of tuberculosis and kind of a lot of attitudes towards it throughout the years. I thought the section on how tuberculosis has been kind of romanticized in pop culture really fascinating. He brings in a lot of quotes that people have said. Some are satire, and I feel like some are not, of people basically conflating having tuberculosis with being able to produce good art. He also talks a lot about how tuberculosis has influenced a lot of, well, just a lot of things, honestly. Apparently it brought about, you know, like cowboy hats, it brought about New Mexico becoming a state, it brought about maybe shorter hemlines potentially, like just a lot of reactions that people had to tuberculosis kind of influencing a lot of the fashions and styles and behaviors throughout the years, which has been really interesting to learn about. But he's also brought a lot of attention to the fact that even though current day TB is a curable disease, that doesn't necessarily mean that those with TB are going to have access to that cure. There are still a lot of places in the world that don't have the means or the money or the infrastructure to be able to offer a cure to those who have tuberculosis. And he also talks a lot about the stigma that has been present and is still very much present around people having TB. So I've just loved how informative this book is. I love how it's kind of getting you to look at things from a different angle too. And I feel like you can just tell that John Green cares so much about tuberculosis and informing other people about it as well, that this has just been such an amazing read. I also love the audiobook because John Green narrates it himself. So I feel like you can really feel a lot of the emotion behind the way that he is choosing to narrate certain things. Like if you're gonna read this book, I would definitely recommend going for the audiobook because it is such a good listening experience. So that was a really long update, but I'm gonna continue to listen to that. I'm definitely gonna finish it up today because I literally only have like 2 hours left of it. Probably less by the time I listen to it on like 2 times speed or whatever. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna read some more of the Spirit Collection of Thorn Hall. I'm gonna do some more knitting, most likely. I don't know if I'm gonna get around to doing a puzzle because I'm kind of, you know, on a roll with my sweater right now, but we'll see. We'll see what I get up to. But yeah, my reading so far this morning has been excellent, so I'm very happy about that. So I'm gonna go, and I will see you guys later this evening. Oh, I think I'm also gonna read Yona this afternoon. I need to read Yona of the Dawn, volume 44, so that'll be great too. So hopefully by the time I come back, I will have finished 2 books. Okay, so it is now about midnight. I'm about to go to sleep because I am very tired. But I wanted to give you guys a quick update before I did so because I finished 3 books. And I honestly feel kind of bad that I haven't told you about it yet. So let me talk about the books in the order that I finished them, because why not? First of all, I did finish up listening to the audiobook for Everything is Tuberculosis, and, you know, my thoughts very much remain the same. I thought it was an excellent read, honestly. I feel like telling somebody that you're reading a nonfiction solely about tuberculosis is a little bit interesting, but it actually is such an informative read, and I feel like it touches on kind of just the state of the medical field in general, using tuberculosis kind of as a conduit to do so, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like the book was full of so many important conversations that we should be having and we should be thinking about, especially with something like tuberculosis, which is so easily treatable, but there's so many people around the world that live in these marginalized countries where an illness like tuberculosis is much more prevalent than it is in the United States, but they basically just can't afford most of the time to get the necessary medicine to help the people that live there. He did relate some instances where some really big pharmaceutical companies were very much just price gouging, and it just really makes you wonder about the medical field and, you know, where some of their priorities lie. I'm very happy that I read it. I would recommend, if you guys are looking for a short nonfiction read. I think the audiobook's only about 5.5 hours. I blitzed through it, honestly. It's very engaging, honestly. I was a big fan of it. So I finished up that one. Then I also finished up Yona of the Dawn, volume 44. Definitely switching gears here. And honestly, the more and more I read Yona, the more stressed I am about how the series is gonna end. This volume in particular was not a favorite of mine. I feel like to some extent we fleshed out some, you know, lore, some information about the characters, but I just feel like nothing happened. Like, absolutely nothing happened. I got to the end of the volume and I was like, that's it? There's not like another chapter in here. I can see that it's setting up the end of this series. I feel like we're very close to the end of Yona of the Dawn, and honestly, I'd like it to end. I feel like 44 volumes. I know it's not as long as some manga series, but 44 volumes is a lot. And like, am I gonna read every one of them? Yeah. But I feel like the series needs to end. Although, you know, I must say, even though like nothing important plot-wise happened in this one, there was some stunning, I mean, you guys saw some of my reactions. There was some stunning relationship moments between Yona and Hawk. And it was also like a little bit funny at the same time. I don't know, like it was just very Yona and Hawk. It's exactly what I expect from them. So it was a little bit stressful. Still pretty good though. And I'm excited for volume 45. Has the cover been revealed? Shall we find out? I need to see if it's a cover that I need to buy, because if you guys don't know, I did not allow myself to collect the entirety of Yona of the Dawn because I don't need 44 volumes of manga. So I only collect the volumes with covers that I like, because why not? So I need to see if I'm gonna have to acquire volume 45. It's looking like it's a no. No offense, I love Xeno, but But anyway, finished that up. And then also, very recently, as in like, you know, 30 minutes ago, I finished up the, what is this called? The Spirit Collection of Thornhall. And I really, really enjoyed this one. I definitely do think it maybe was a tad bit long. I feel like there was one point in the story where I was like, literally, how are there 75 pages left? Like, what do you mean there are 75 pages left? And the book is only 300 pages, but like the amount of words that are crammed onto these pages, absolutely diabolical. Just make the book longer. Like, I don't care how long the book is. I just want the text to be bigger, because my eyes don't deserve this. But the rest of this book focused a lot on Elegy, as she is, again, just like dealing with all of these ghosts. She's kind of dealing with her father's impending death. Throughout the rest of the book, you're seeing a little bit more of the dynamic between her and some certain ghosts that are in the house, and it is, not good, shall we say. The ghosts are definitely a lot more antagonistic than I was expecting them to be. Like, going into this book, I don't know why I was expecting it to be like, oh yeah, like, fun house full of ghosts. Like, no, some of them suck. But I did really like some of the more spooky elements that added to the book. It definitely isn't like a scary book. It very much fits in gothic. It definitely has kind of a creeping sense of dread throughout it. You kind of feel like something bad could potentially happen, and I do really like that. I feel like I sometimes like that more than just like a straight up horror book. I love the feeling of dread that sets over you when you're reading like a good gothic book, you know what I'm saying? I also did really like the romance. It is so insta-love, but like in this scenario, like now that I finished the book even, I can tell you that I don't care because I just thought they were cute. I also thought some of the things that Elegy did were so interesting. She's a very forward person, I would say. And I feel like that's mainly because there are certain situations that she just doesn't really know how to deal with because she doesn't have a lot of external companionship. So watching her like go out in public, deal with strangers, do all of these things it's just so interesting to me. And I did really like Elegy as a main character, and kind of watching her character development and her evolution over the course of this book was incredibly satisfying. I liked that a lot. But overall, I did really like this book. I'm glad I picked it up. I would highly recommend this book if you want a good book for like late October, because this book takes place in late October, and I feel like it has all of the beautiful, stunning, spooky vibes you could possibly want. It also takes place in New England in the fall. And while there aren't a ton of descriptions, there are like a few, which I do absolutely love. I love the times when she would go into town in this like 1939 Rolls-Royce Phantom, which I just think is hilarious. Like just the thought of this woman like going into a modern town dressed in something from like the 1910s, driving this car from 1940. It's a funny visual and I honestly kind of loved it. But there were some descriptions of, you know, the fact that Halloween was coming up soon. So there'd be like jack-o'-lanterns out on the porch and, you know, spider webs all over the bushes and stuff like that. I feel like if you're looking for a kind of gothic fantasy with the touch of romance kind of thing, and you want to read this book, I would recommend picking it up. There's book number 3 done for the video. I'm probably not going to finish another book, but I do want to start the audiobook for Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil tomorrow because I am about to go to sleep because I'm tired. But I also wanted to show you guys before I go to sleep, I have spent a lot of today working on my sweater. I know, it's just looking so stunning so far. Actually, I am really happy with how it's turning out, I must say. I did a little fold over collar, which I think looks really nice. I also did some German short rows in the back, which that's kind of a fun technique that I've heard people talk about, and I was like, ew, I don't want to do that. But you know, it was optional in the pattern, and I was like, why not? Honestly. And it adds like some shaping to the neckline, so it'll make the back of the neckline sit higher than the front, I think is the point. So hopefully that'll look nice, but so far it's looking pretty good. And honestly, the part of this that I was the most stressed about was doing the neckline. I don't really even know why, but that part's done. I've tried it on a couple of times and I think the fit is good. I was a little bit worried it would be too tight around my neck. I ended up sizing up the like amount of stitches that I was casting on to I think the second to largest size, because I felt like if I did any fewer it would be so tight on my neck, and I don't know if that's the point, but I don't want it to be super tight on my neck. But I feel like I can adjust it from there because I did the raglan with my cardigan, so I feel like it's gonna be the same exact thing. Hello, Daisy. She has been just everywhere in this vlog. I swear there's never been so much Daisy content in a vlog. Hello. But I'm also really liking the yarn combination. I like that you can kind of see some of the streaks of the lighter colored kid silk throughout it, but it also gives it this really like fuzzy halo around it. I feel like this sweater is going to be incredibly warm. Like the more and more that I think about it, it's like 50% alpaca, 50% wool, and I'm also adding kid silk to it. So I'm like, this is going to be so sweaty if I try to wear this anytime within the next 6 months. But, you know, I'll probably suffer for my craft anyway. But yeah, there's how my sweater's going. I did indeed make it to the yoke, so I'm very excited about that. Although my upper arm, I don't know why, but like my upper arm hurts, so I think mayhaps I should be done with the knitting for the time being. I feel like just woefully out of shape. Like, I feel like I'm just coming on here every month being like, guys, I have another, like, knitting or crochet injury. It's embarrassing. I think tomorrow morning I'm going to make a little reading journal spread. I'll show you guys what that is. Well, you'll see it in like 3 seconds. I'm gonna read a little bit of Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, and I'll honestly just see what else I get up to tomorrow. Maybe if my arm feels better tomorrow, I will work on my sweater because I'm so hyped about it. We'll see how my arm's feeling tomorrow. But I wanted to share that it's going well. I know it doesn't look like a lot now, but it's gonna be good. So should I try it on? Maybe I'll give you the little try on. Obviously it's gonna look a little bit ridiculous over this sweatshirt, as if that's the part of this that makes this look ridiculous. Here's how it's looking. I think it's fitting about how I want it to. I do think the neckline is really thick, but I think that's kind of just, you know, how the folded over necklines are gonna look in a yarn of this weight. Anyway, I'm gonna go to sleep. I'm so tired, but I have had a lovely day, honestly. Reading, knitting, that's kind of all I've done, to be honest. But tomorrow, maybe I'll do something different. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'll see you guys tomorrow. So it is now the next day. It is Sunday afternoon. I've just been spending the morning doing some journaling. I've been doing some reading. I did a puzzle this afternoon. And all throughout that, I have been reading / listening to Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. So obviously, I need to come and give you an update. I'm also probably going to be ending the vlog right now because this does kind of conclude the weekend. But obviously, we need to talk about this first because I've read quite a bit of this book. I am currently on page 177 and I am absolutely loving it so far. It is actually so good. And I'm certainly not surprised by that. I feel like there is yet to be a book that V.E. Schwab has written that I have not enjoyed. I feel like she just can write anything and do it well, honestly. And major respect for that. But when I heard she was coming out with toxic lesbian vampires, I was like, okay, I'm ready. And now that I've jumped into it, and now that I've read a decent chunk of it, I can indeed confirm that she never misses. So in this book, it says on the dust jacket that we are following 3 main points of view. At the point that I'm at right now, we've only gotten 2 of the points of view. I believe the 3rd person that we're following has been in the story, but we have not gotten their POV yet, which I think is very interesting, and I'm wondering why. But it says that with her, we're set in 1827 London, which I love anything set in the 1800s in London, so I'm ready for that. I'm very interested. I hope it lives up to what my mind is conjuring with some vampires in London in the 1820s. But as for the 2 points of view that we have been getting, we've mainly been focusing on Maria, and for her we are set in the 1500s in Santo Domingo, I believe, but like, you know, throughout her POV we kind of do go to different places. But initially we're following her. She is rather young. She is getting married to this Viscount who she kind of set her sights on. It's certainly not a love match. She kind of just saw that he was very affluent, very well-to-do, and her coming from a very poor background, not really having a lot, but having a lot of things that she wants in life, she kind of made it her mission to marry this nasty, nasty man. Obviously, being a woman of the time, she didn't really have a choice but to marry somebody, so she was like, well, if I'm gonna marry somebody, he's at least gotta have money, which, like, you know, fair enough. But throughout the entirety of their marriage, there are a lot of issues that are cropping up, particularly the fact that she is very much expected by literally everybody to produce an heir, but she really does not want to have children. So we've been seeing a lot of her inner struggle with that. We're seeing the lengths that she will go to not, you know, become with child despite his best and disgusting efforts. And it very much does not help that he kind of views her as a possession. He doesn't really allow her to leave the house. He's like, I don't want anybody looking at, you know, my beautiful wife, whatever. But I'm like, gross. See, but he also doesn't really like her that much, I feel. So I'm like, what's that about? So he literally just views her as a vessel for his future heir to carry on his name. But the whole time she's like, but what about me? Like, what about what I want? What about what I want to do? What about my legacy? Like, this whole kind of internal debate has been so interesting to follow. So obviously the marriage is not going too well, but we've also been kind of seeing her forming some friendships, probably more, with some women in her life. You can definitely tell she's kind of, you know, feeling some type of way about them. So we're also following her as she is discovering her sexuality and figuring out, you know, like what she wants from life. So all of that's been good. Obviously, you know, some vampiric things do eventually happen, which I don't think is a spoiler. Because that's the whole point of the book. But I do find it interesting that the vampire elements didn't really come into this book until around the 100-page mark. I feel like we kind of spent, you know, 100 pages dancing around it a little bit until we finally got into it. And once we did, I absolutely loved it. I love the vampires in this. They feel very classic vampires. Like, they can't go out in sunlight. They can't cross the threshold. They can, like, potentially maybe read your mind a little bit. I just love it when vampires have, like, the typical vampire limitations. I don't know, something about it I just always think is fun. So that's kind of everything that's going on in Maria's point of view, and that has been what has taken up the majority of these first 175 or so pages. But we've also been getting another POV from our other main character, Alice, who is 18, I believe. Her timeline is like during the present day. She's going to Harvard. She's a freshman. I think she's within like her first couple of weeks of being there, maybe. And we see her go to this party. We see her kind of struggling to break out of her shell a little bit until she meets this woman. And she ends up going home with this woman. Obviously things ensue. And then the next morning when she wakes up, the woman's gone. But oh no, Alice is kind of feeling a little bit funky. What could possibly be going on? And honestly, there's really not much more to report with her character because the majority of this book so far we've been focusing on Maria. But I kind of feel like, you know, at some point we're probably going to hit a turning point and we're going to start focusing on the other characters more. I'm also just really interested to see how these, you know, 3 characters are going to come together, interact, overlap, but I think it'll be really interesting to kind of see their individual journeys with vampirism and then kind of see them come together and probably bond over just all of the rage and anger that they have at life, honestly. But again, I'm so excited to get into the London 1927 timeline. Please, V.E. Schwab, don't keep me waiting. So I love the plot so far. I love the just feminine rage in this book. It's always so satisfying when you see this thing that like it's building up to and then it finally happens. It's always just so good. But then something else that I've really noticed in this book is that the writing is absolutely delectable, honestly. I feel like V.E. Schwab is definitely trying to set a vibe in this book, and she is very much succeeding. I would say the writing style in this one is very similar to her writing style in Addie LaRue. I feel like with a lot of her other books that I've read, she has a nice writing style, but it's pretty straightforward. But I feel like with this one, we're kind of leaning into those like moodier gothic descriptions of things just a little bit. And with a subject like vampires, obviously you're gonna want to do that, and I absolutely love it. But so far this is going so well. I feel like there is potential for this book to be a 5-star. I don't know if it's gonna be. We're just gonna have to see. I think I'm probably gonna be like finishing the rest of this in a different vlog at some point in time in August, so be on the lookout for that. But so far, so good, honestly. Like, I'm 174 pages in. I've been listening to / like reading it all day. I've just been like wrapped, so engrossed, honestly. So unfortunately, that is all of Bury Bones in the Midnight Soil that I will be reading in this vlog, but oh my god, I cannot wait to read the rest of it. It's gonna be so good. But that does also lead us to the conclusion of this vlog. I like to wrap things up and get going on a different vlog that I'm gonna start filming. I'm gonna film a little gothic vlog this coming week, which I'm so excited about. But yeah, let me give you a quick wrap up of everything that I've read over the last 2 days. I feel like I've read so much for it just being like 2 days. And then we'll say bye. So first of all, it's here somewhere. First of all, I read the Spirit Collection of Thorn Hall. Very happy that I finally got around to this, and I'm so happy I did my updated like physical TBR video because I feel like it really brought this to the forefront of my mind, and I finally read it and I really enjoyed it. Then I also read Yona of the Dawn volume 44. Again, stressful times, but there were also some good times in this one as well. And then I also finished Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. Such a great book, honestly. Very happy that I finally decided to read this one. Actually, I don't think it's been out that long. And I desperately want John Green to write more nonfiction. I feel like he really just does nonfiction so well. It's so accessible, but so informative at the same time. Just such a big fan of both of his nonfiction books so far. But yeah, those are the 3 books that I finished and the 4th book that I started. I really hope you guys enjoyed hanging out with me over the last couple of days. I just had such a lovely time, honestly, just focusing on doing some fun hobbies, doing some reading, just hanging out. Obviously, I'd love to know if you guys have read any of the books that I read in this vlog. Namely, have you guys read Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil? What did you think about it? I'd love to know. Also, before we go, I would like to thank everybody over on my Patreon. If you're ever looking for more content from me, that is always linked down below. But with that, I'm gonna let you guys go. Thank you again so much for watching. I hope you're all having an amazing day, whatever day that is that you happen to be watching this video, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye!